Welcome back to the MSP Cyber Roundtable. I am joined today by Mark Howells from Dakota Ridge Marketing. We're going to talk more about the Dakota journey a little bit later. Mark, tell me about your week. How far north are you? For me, I'm like any day now. I'm looking out this window here. Like I feel like next week these leaves are going to be orange.
Yeah,
Um, is that
totally
your?
agreed. I'm in Colorado, so we had some weird current sort of like immediate shift in weather. I have no idea what happened, but it was hot as can be out in the 90s, and then literally the next day we're down in like the 50s and 60s. So that's what we're dealing with here.
Yep. Yep. I'm embracing myself. Although I just I went outside and I'm at a coffee in my office, which is the most wonderful thing because it forces me to walk one block to the coffee shop. So I actually left my chair. Um, and there's people laying on the grass. It's still sunny, but I know that like frost is like literally 2 weeks away.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, so we're gonna talk about which I like it's a big question mark in my head. I know I've been hearing the word SEO for it seems like 3 decades.
mhm.
Um, and it's been important to pretty much any business owner out on the internet. But the AI has really upended this like the way people look for information, right?
Yeah,
And there's a lot of downstream impacts to that are still unfolding.
yeah,
Um, so that's today's chat. Before we and I'm so happy that I have a knowledge expert because I just for me it's a giant question mark. I have no idea what's going to happen or how to deal with it. So I'm excited to have the conversation. But Mark, how did you become this expert? Because there's a lot of marketing firms out there that frankly are running the same playbook they've been running for like 15 years.
yeah.
So how did you become a bleeding edge practitioner? Like what led you there?
Yeah, no, good question. So been doing marketing for, not to date myself, but I think it's like 17 plus years now, something like that. And that was after getting into kind of a sales role and learning sales side of things. But have always loved seeing the high level overview of things from a marketing perspective, because really, if marketing does not move the business needle, then to me, there's no point in it. And a lot of, unfortunately, as a lot of industries, a lot of people are jumping into it and just kind of doing these one-off little things and not thinking holistically about it. And so I think it's really important to do that, to think strategically about it and see marketing as just a driver behind business growth. And so that's really, that mindset I think has pushed me towards always looking at, what's changing, what's next. Don't just sit in the same strategy that you're in from the start. That just, yeah, it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot as far as I see it, at least.
Yeah, I do feel like my phone's finally stopped ringing with Google search consultants. So I'm super happy about that. But yeah, you're right. So I think a lot of our viewers may not realize that if the primary way you're getting business is through referral, that means that you're effective at service delivery, but you don't actually have the ability to generate demand, which means that your growth is always going to be limited. Or to put that another way, if you had more demand, you would be able to grow you'd be capable of growing your business faster. So I think some businesses have figured out how to generate business on demand, and
Mhm.
it's a complicated machine that you have to build, or I should say, not complicated, right? It's an important critical machine that requires precision to be able to
Yeah.
deliver business on demand without efficiently, right?
Right.
Where you're not just dumping money down an ad hole, which I think some people, me maybe 15 years ago, but also a lot of our viewers equate advertising with marketing, right? And don't see the difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And sorry.
well, that holistic strategy is really important because I actually think of sales as a function of going to market as marketing, and I think some people think of it the other direction, where marketing answers to sales. And I'm curious how you see that, like with this holistic view. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few questions there, but so overall, it's got to be a combo effect. I think if you really want to grow your business, there are absolutely pieces of marketing and sales that need to be word of mouth and referrals, and that's usually how people get started. Of course, if you're especially if you're a tech who's left an MSP and you're going to start your own MSP, you want to do those networking, those connection pieces. We kind of see it as like an inverse relationship, if you will, where on the ad side of things, that may be a good place to start, ad outbound, that kind of stuff, put a little effort there because inbound and demand gen is going to take a little bit of time. But with that said, it's scalable and it provides dividends for so long. So once you've built that engine, as you said, it's going to keep going. If you're doing ads and that's all you're doing, or word of mouth, and you're going to networking events, as soon as you stop either of those, guess what? You're pretty much done for. They all stop. Obviously, networking can trickle if you know a lot of connections, but especially in the outbound side, it can stop. Where inbound and demand gen, I think is so important if you want to scale your company long term, which most people in a business do. And so once you get that going, it's going. It's an engine and it keeps going. And you need to keep feeding it, absolutely, but it's going to provide that kind of long tail dividend setup overall.
That I first heard the word long tail in music licensing, because it's got that same curve to it on
Hmm.
production and licensing. But I know that when I started this software company, the first thing I did, the first thing I did was interview and customer discovery. But that was before I had a website. The first thing I built was not my software. It was a campaign,
Hmm.
and I just threw market messaging out there to see what would stick. Those campaigns for me are still bringing me leads every week. They've been doing it for like 5 years, um, and it's really I've come to appreciate like that long tail is like it's almost it's I don't even have words for how surprised I've been at the creative nature, right?
Hmm.
When you stack these content campaigns on top of each other, and then uh, you get this bump in the beginning, and then you get a long tail, right? But
Right.
the if you have a lot of content, you get a lot of long tail, and for us, inbound's our primary lead driver. It's how people learn about cybersecurity, and then about our product, and then
Hmm.
about our company, and then about our product, and then we get a chance to talk to them, right? And we don't have to go ring on the phone. We
Yeah.
don't have to spend money on ads, and that's so important.
Yep.
But this whole world's getting turned upside down, right? Because search is changing,
Yep.
and I'm a little worried about my long tail right now, actually, because of that. But before we get into the problem space and the solutions there, today's tabletop day, we're going to do a little lecture and talk about using tabletop exercises in incident response. So with that, I'm going to take a few minutes here, and then we'll circle back on. Is there an acronym yet? GSEO. We can
Yeah,
coin.
there isn't yet. It's just SGE as part of SEO. So you should coin it right there. All royalties go to Matt.
All right, here we go. So we're talking about tabletop exercises today a little bit. There's a few different types of tabletops that in the cybersecurity world are pretty important. I think the exercises that are most commonly encountered or commonly demanded are these incident response exercises, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a moment. But there's also threat modeling exercises that you can do tabletops, and those I think are really fun because it's always a surprise what's going to happen. Unfortunately, the incident response stuff, at least from a practitioner point of view, I already know what's going to happen in that room. But the threat modeling sometimes always a surprise. But there's also just business impact type conversations you can have. The whole point of having a tabletop exercise is to find out what's going to happen before it happens, right? So you can, some people call it simulation. I like to think of it as discovery. Um, but you can test out the plans that your company has, or the not plans. If you don't have a plan yet, you can try to create one through discussion and through tabletop, right? You can test out your communication chains. You can test out group decision making. And the point is to practice, right? So everyone gets to understand how they're supposed to respond when the real thing happens, but also to find all the problems, right? The disconnects, Joe doesn't actually have Jane's phone number if email's down, right? That's that's a problem. We need to make sure someone goes home with a paper contact list, right? Those are the types of things you surface. Um, so typically we're talking about discussions, right? It's pretty loose, although some people do frame these around games, and I love to see that. I had the opportunity to see a really fun game that was moderated by Matt Lee a few weeks ago, and so you can totally gamify this. There's even playing card games. There's a kit from um, called what is it? Breaches and backdoors and breaches. Yeah, and you can actually playing card your way through as a group, strategically through how are we going to deal with this incident to discover what the cause was. So I think that you can prepare a lot or you can prepare a little. What's important is that people get together and they have that conversation about operations and about business risk before the thing actually happens. But I don't want to leave you with too many too much vagueness here. I will get specific about if you need to go through this. You can pick up a book and you can train yourself on tabletop, or you can pick up one of these kits and you can follow through one of these scenarios. But really, just about anyone can sit down, and you don't need to be in IT. You can, as a business stakeholder, sit down with your stakeholder group. If you're an MSP and you're the one moderating, it's your point of contact at the customer, probably the CEO at the customer. If they have IT staff, some of the IT staff, I would recommend at least one representative of each major business unit or department. Um, Put that stakeholder group together, figure out what the scenario is going to be before they arrive at the table. Um, of course, understand, and I'm going a little bit backwards here. Of course, understand what you think the goals of that exercise are that day. Is it to shock people with reality? Is that the intent? Is it to discover where there are holes in the plan? Because as a moderator, you can tilt the table towards one of those outcomes or another, right? And then facilitate the exercise. I will say that it's very, very, very useful if the person running the tabletop is not actually an operator as part of whatever you're trying to test. It's really important that that person can step outside, because you're really trying to put everyone on an even playing field. The last thing you want is the IT guy to be running the tabletop as a dictator, right? Pushing off all the problem space to everyone else, right? Um, you really want someone outside the group. So if you're in an MSP, maybe send the guy that's not on that client, right, over to that account to do the tabletop. If you are in an organization, like let's say you're the CISO, right, and you're running a tabletop exercise, don't if successful exercise of an incident response scenario requires you might want to think about other people that can cover for you. But maybe you have someone step into your role so they understand what it is. But in any case, you run the exercise. The reality is people probably aren't going to sit there for more than 90 minutes, even if you feed them pizza. So keep it short. But make sure you take notes and make sure that you collect those notes and make sure that you prepare some kind of report with the collective information that was discovered, and circulate it and meet again so that everyone can let that experience recede into the distance, pick up that report, digest it, and have that follow-up conversation about what are we going to do about what happened. It's tough to fit all of that into one exercise. So oftentimes, two meetings is in order. Although if you keep it short, maybe you could fit that into a 90-minute. That's it. I'm curious, Mark, you're in marketing. In cyber world, we do these war games all the time. Do you do anything like this in your practice with your customers, like simulating what ifs?
Um, we don't honestly, because we really try to be that kind of full outsource marketing team for them, and we're taking things off their shoulders in a way, as opposed to saying, "All right, you're going to get in the weeds with us. Here we go." So we don't do too much of that. Yeah, as I've come to learn more about tabletop exercises and everything, like I think there's opportunities there to pull kind of potentially marketing content from it, because I don't think anyone in other business verticals and industries understand that this happens, that this gaming the system, if you will, or just preparing for these potential breaches, et cetera, actually happens. And that might be an interesting content topic, actually.
Yeah,
I'm talking to AJ Lease in a few weeks, who has a game centered around it. And yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, because his feeling is like normal tabletop exercises don't really work anymore. And so we need to gamify it and get people into it in a new way. So
whatever you can do to get people passionate, right? And
mhm.
you're right.
Yep.
Sometimes you need a game, and I think it depends on the group and the scenario. If you're someone that runs tabletops frequently, it's good to have a few formats in your back pocket. So
Yep.
um, I love watching the games. I'll tell you that. Watching people get excited about incident response, because it's normally this thing that's either boring, if it's a simulation, or it's like scary, right?
Right.
If it's the real deal. And so watching people like excited
Yeah.
and happy was fun. I think it allows a different type of thinking. But
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always good
so
to go down those routes and prep no matter what you're doing.
let's talk. Let's talk about this thing that I'm worried about. We're not quite at like crisis management level, but I am thinking about my long tail, right? And people stumble into the campaigns that I put together over the last 5 years, and I get a
Mhm.
steady stream. And of course, we're always doing new content, but yeah, Google and Microsoft are drip feeding AI into the search box these days. People are sometimes going straight to ChatGPT instead of the search box these days.
Mhm.
Um, Still early days. I don't think we're
Right.
seeing big shifts in user behavior collectively yet, but clearly some stuff's going to change. I actually, I mean, I read the tech rags, I watch the demos, I'm aware of all of these technologies, but I actually haven't thought a lot about what is this likely to do to the whole ecosystem of how people find things, and how marketers participate in that economy. Because I think
Yeah.
um, 20 years ago, marketing was driven by like one way advertising at the awareness level mostly.
Mhm.
And these days, a strong marketer has to participate in the information economy, right?
Right.
People are looking for information. If you supply information, you get a little bit of attention in return.
Yep.
Um, but with AI stepping into the ring, so to speak, what does that mean for us? I
Be
I,
afraid. Be very afraid. No, just kidding.
I am afraid. I am afraid because I feel like I'm gonna have to recook our whole marketing
Right.
strategy.
I don't think I mean, it depends on what you're doing, I'll say, as far as the recooking goes. I mean, everything is totally, the coin is flipped as far as what you were talking about with, years ago, advertising. It's just one to one, pushing it out there, and hopefully they see it. That's totally shifted. And I think there's unfortunately not an awareness of the buyer journey these days, especially for B2B, what is occurring, which is now it's 60 to 70% of the journey. Sometimes I hear 50 to 80%, obviously water data, but of the journey is done before ever talking to your company. And that's a huge, huge thing to like think about and focus on when you're thinking about your marketing and your sales and everything like that. What that means is if you want to differentiate, if you want to grow your company, you have to be there as part of that. That's a huge part of that buyer journey. You have to be out there as part of that, through content, through information, everything like that, multi-channel. in order to land, to gain that awareness. And that's been going on for a while, right? That shift has been occurring for years. And now with SGE, it's just kind of changing the game. And for those who don't know, search generative experience, it's basically taking the generative AI that we all now, probably have used through ChatGPT, et cetera, Gemini, what have you, and throwing that into search. And so it's taking those top results, pulling them in and saying, okay, here's the answer. Here's what you're looking for. I'm putting this out there for you. And then if you want some more information, here's some links to those content pieces. So it's totally changing the game, totally changing the SEO game, the content marketing game, everything like that. I've seen a lot of people that are scared, of what this is going to do. A lot of SEO people, a lot of marketers scared, a lot of companies scared. We see it personally as kind of a huge opportunity, especially in the IT space, which we can jump into as we go. But I think it's a huge opportunity, honestly.
So most of the audience here, they're some type of technology service provider or IT MSP.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are doing no marketing, right?
Yep.
Some of them are doing physical marketing, which is never going to die, right? Meet space marketing, right?
Yep.
In-person networking, that kind of thing. That's always going to be important. Some people are paying for ads, right? They're maybe they're part of directories, maybe they're part of like membership organizations.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of just focus on the web surface itself, right, to make sure they're findable, right? And then I think that MSPs that have maybe invested a little bit more, they've created content, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know the full list here, but I see a lot of blogs, right? I see sometimes white papers and case studies. These are all things that you find by searching, right? Like
Right.
you don't usually find the company first and then go look for their
Yeah.
white papers,
Right.
right? Usually you're looking. Usually it's the other direction, right?
Right. Yep.
So is all that content just like going to go away?
No, it's because really you got to think about it. All that content is feeding SG, right? But you need to have the right content, the right setup, the right makeup of content in order to rise to the top. And that's really what, again, is that huge opportunity as far as I see it. And this is not to say by any means that those other elements of your marketing and sales are not needed. Absolutely, still do the networking, word of mouth, referrals. I'm a data guy, just so I always look at analytics and everything like that. And so Google actually came up with this great rule that I think is very telling. It's the 7-11-4 rule. And you may have heard it, may have not, but basically it's for a B2B buyer to say, yes, this MSP, I'm going to go with them. They have to consume or engage with your company for 7 hours across 11 different touch points. So that could be mentioned a networking event, read your blog post, saw a video, etc., across at least 4 different channels. So if you think about that, that's a lot going on. And that's, I think, where so many IT companies falter is they're like, I'm going to try this one thing and I'm going to try that and I'm going to go and go and go. It's not that anymore. It can't be that. It doesn't work. You have to really separate out these different channels and kind of, if you want to call it juggle, but juggle them and really get a good cadence going across these different channels in order to win.
Yeah. So I've lost track of our channels at this point. We try not to adopt anything that's not sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've killed a bunch of things that are not sustainable, but
Yep.
LinkedIn's our biggest channel. We love YouTube because it's super sticky.
Mm-hmm.
That follow button's awesome. We're on the podcasts networks with like, I'm going to be this call's going to be on the podcasts next week.
Nice.
So in Apple land, Google land, whatever, Spotify. Of course we do the stuff in writing too on our website, right? Case studies are a big deal. what else are people consuming these days? Like what else is in that universe? This is what we've chosen, but only because this is what's sustainable for us, right?
Right. And that's a big thing, is just resources. And that's why, obviously IT companies work with us because we can, handle all that. But I think you do have to look at that up front. And that's what a lot of companies don't do is, they say, well, okay, we need to be on all these different channels. Well, let's do these, 14, just to be crazy, but 14 channels without thinking resource wise, what is sustainable, to your point. And then they do it, and they do it for a couple months, a year, whatever it is, and say, well, that's not working. And, and there are a lot of variables to it, but you have to have both that cadence and that consistency going across time to really see the benefits of it. And so if you're unable to do that and you know that up front, you have to almost look at it and say, like, could I, put 2-3 hours to this every week, every couple of weeks, whatever it may be? If the answer is no, don't start. There's no point in it. You're just kind of wasting your time.
So, I don't know what the percentage of people, but I definitely know people that are going to the large language models first these days, before they go to the Google search box. And not being a person that does that, I don't know at what point they leave the chat box and then continue on to find the solution, right?
Yeah.
But I would presume people start with their problem space. They then somehow make their way to the solution space in that chat session.
Right.
And I could imagine, hey, Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever, what are 5 companies that do this thing? And probably the links are right there, right? So where does that come from?
I mean, that's obviously GPT's, database of information, everything. I think if I remember, they crawled, what was it, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, something like that, crawled the majority of it, websites out there to pull all that together. So it's just using that database. It's continuously crawling everything and pulling that all together. I mean, people are definitely jumping off of Google from a search perspective and going to, social media, now Gen AI kind of stuff to find the answers. However, the numbers keep going up for Google search. So I think it's, has to be still a part of your strategy, is to focus on, okay, for new business, for new awareness and people coming to my site, I have to be on, Google search and think about SEO, but think about it now in the new world, if you will.
I'm curious if the same things that drive you up the Google search rankings are the things that might drive you up a large language model ranking. Do we not know yet? Is that like no one knows? Has anyone studied this?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has. I haven't seen anything about that before. It's a good question, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new world. So what should we be thinking about? In terms of like I tweak our marketing all the time,
Yeah.
right? I would hope that most of our partner community is thinking about, okay, what do I need to change this year in marketing? The same way they're thinking about what do I need to change in EDR, or whatever other tools they're using. What are the thing? What's the this year like? Let's say, as an example, you're running a moderately successful multi-channel strategy that's giving you, that's resulting in inbound, that's driving, a chunk of your customer accretion, right?
Yep.
What would I want to be looking at for the next 12 months or the next 6 months? Like, what should I be looking at that's new for us? 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, it was, well, we're going to switch to video. We were doing a lot of text-based content, and we're still going to doing some of that, but the primary content mode was going to go to video.
Yeah.
So with SG out there, what are the question marks for the year?
Yeah, I think, definitely video, to jump on that. We are doing more and more video with clients just because, 93% of what people take in is visual. So if you're just putting out text-based blog posts, especially if it's just a block of text that you're either pulling from GPT or somewhere else, or what we see really, unfortunately, and I'm always kind of aghast at this as a marketer, is syndicated content where an MSP will go out and just buy, I'm just going to get this drip of content, and there's all these MSPs out there doing the same thing, and that's duplicate content. That's a whole nother story. But
Well,
really,
wait. Pause that story
yes,
because I think this is an interesting thing. When I talk to someone that was really into SEO, I've heard that Google doesn't look kindly at that kind of thing when they see duplicate content.
yeah,
What's the result when there's duplicate content?
just your site
Yeah,
ranking goes
yeah,
way down. Don't do
yeah.
it. Just don't do it.
Don't.
I know it's like, oh, it's cheap and I don't have to worry about it and it just puts out blog posts. Don't do it because you're literally the whole point of putting out the content is to get more people to the site and you're doing the exact opposite. You're telling
Yeah.
Google, like, my site is horrible. Please don't send people here.
I derailed you for a moment, but it was because I see that too, and I worry
Yeah.
about it. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so I forget where your train was going now, but
No, just yeah, with SG, kind of what to focus on. The big, like, kind of big picture, painted picture here is the world has shifted from more technical SEO, meaning more keyword focused mainly, right? There was the whole thing of like keywords, and I got to get the right keywords in there, and this topic is centered around this keyword, and I'm gonna, make sure I'm not keyword stuffing, putting too many in there, and all these different elements. There is that still, but basically what Google has done is said, okay, we tried that, but now it's really user driven. It's the reader who is looking for something. They have a certain intent. They're looking for certain information. What is this CISO thing? I don't really understand what that is. I got to look this up. They're looking for information about these things. And so they're basically saying your content has to be valuable to that reader. It has to be different. It has to be unique and high engagement based on the type of content that you're putting together. All these things, it's more kind of like human driven in a way, which is weird because it's Google's algorithm. But they even have now humans, amazingly enough, in Google who just score content now to say, yes, a human would like this. And so they're shifting everything, even though, and it's kind of ironic when you think about it, because this is AI driven, but they're basically saying we're going to shift all this to be just value based and differentiated. And that's kind of the big shift that is going on. And if I can keep going on this route, but a good way to kind of do that and think about that is Google has something called EAT, which is EEAT. And so that stands for experience. So do I, or the user actually, are they having a good experience when they come to the site? Is it fast? Is it, the content's well laid out and everything like that? The second E is expertise. So as an MSP or, a cyber company, whoever, do you have expertise in this topic? So that's showing through in the content. Authoritativeness is A. So that's, the content, the website via backlinks. There is actually a score they use called domain authority or domain trust, and every site has a score, and it basically shows you, is it a good site? Is it a bad site? It's a good score to look at. And then just trustworthiness. Is it secure? Is it accurate? Are you showing your sources? And that's what they use to really say, is this quality? And they actually, even to go one step further, in 2020, they patented their information gain scoring, which was pretty much, okay, everyone's putting out the same stuff on the internet, right? You're putting out a content piece about, 24/7 SOC. Here's my content piece. Guess what? 30 other people just put out the exact same thing. And so Google said, okay, and they called it skyscraper content, actually. It was just same thing. People are just building on the same thing. So with that whole mind of differentiation with, I think ConnectWise said 90,000 plus MSPs out there in the US now, something crazy like that, have to differentiate. And going this content route of something new, something different is the way to go. And I can get into how to do that, but
Well, I've got so many questions because I've become a little bit of a marketing geek
Mhm.
as I've had to being CEO, but and it's a lot more technical than I think people realize. But
Mhm.
as you're demonstrating, um, I mean, one of the questions I have is, you create video content, great. People like the video content, they think it's authoritative, but like ultimately, it doesn't live on your website. It lives like in one of the video platforms, unless you stick it on your website. But still, it's probably hosted on a video platform. So what's best practice there? How do you use that content to to correlate with the website. Um,
Yeah.
I
And Google sees that, honestly. They look at everything. I mean, they even have, the ability to take in an image now, because you should be putting images in your content on your site and say, okay, this is about X. Um, we do it on YouTube, because obviously YouTube is the number 2 search engine out there. Put it up on YouTube and then just embed it in the post on your site. And yes, it's living in YouTube, but it's still correlated. I mean, Google even takes in social posts now and says, oh, the social post from Fort Mesa connected up. They kind of look at every piece of the marketing puzzle and all those channels, just because they have to, because that's the way of the world these days. So,
it's
just
really
tactically.
interesting.
Yeah.
I hope that is going to improve the quality of Google search too, because I'm going to tell you, it's nice to think that generative search is going to create a better user experience, but what I've seen so far, in terms of impact out of LLMs, is when I want to research a topic that I may be only a little bit knowledgeable of, and I want to become more knowledgeable,
Yep.
it's actually really hard to find authoritative sources.
Mm.
Oftentimes the first 10 links I click on are either clearly generated by AI, right? And AI is not an expert in anything. Or written by people that maybe like were just copying someone else's article, right?
Hmm.
And really didn't, if the original article is really great, that content might be okay, but
Yep.
it's increasingly hard for me to find um, really authoritative content. So I'm really happy to see those approaches, and I hope people don't get too down about like, oh man, I got to change my website that's been the same
Right.
for 8 years.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, that's pretty much the main point of what they did. They did a core update to really push this out in, I think it was March this year, and that was their entire mission, was crap content that is out there. We want that to go down. And they actually said it'll result in, I think, a 40% reduction in bad user content and things exactly like what you're saying, where I'm looking for an answer and it's just stuff, right? I'm not really getting to what I need, that good gold that I want. And that was their entire mission behind this. And I think it is interesting, going back to that point of that they literally have, rooms of humans saying, this is good, this is bad. This is good, this is bad. It's kind of like swipe left, swipe right kind of idea.
Yeah.
And to try to say, what is actually good, because there's obviously so much content out there and so much stuff out there. What's going to rise to the top? This is where, this to us again is a huge opportunity. Back to that point of most IT companies are either doing no marketing or poor marketing, especially when it comes to kind of inbound content side of things. So this is line in the sand, do you want to step over it or not? And there's a huge opportunity here that if you're creating that right enhanced content, as we call it, that you can rise to the top and get all that traffic. And yes, people are jumping away, but I actually looked it up this morning, searching for like network security. That's up to 100,000 searches a month. Cybersecurity, 1 million a month. Like, there's people out there looking for what you do from a service perspective. You just have to supply them with the good stuff that they're looking for to move them down that buyer journey across multi-channel, as we talked about.
Yeah. So I mean, we do a very tiny sliver of outbound, but
Mhm.
our journey is inbound. That's the way we operate. We're a software company. It makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
for software companies to invest in inbound. And so I've studied the funnel, to endless degrees, and people define it. It's 3 stage, it's 5 stage, it's 26 stages with different flavors. But it seems like the shape of the funnel itself may be changing, because if people are doing research like that mid funnel stuff in AI, right?
Yep.
This like natural connection from top of funnel to bottom of funnel seems like it's like broken in the middle.
Yeah.
And I Yeah, I don't even know what that means yet because yeah, I mean, there's people that use those large language models every day, right? But
Mhm.
even they are not running their whole life around, the chat box. They're still
Mhm.
using traditional search, right?
Right.
But presumably these other modes are going to become more capable and more central, and they're going to be positioned more centrally. And
Yeah.
do you see the nature of content itself changing? In terms of like that research level stuff, maybe like not being as valuable.
Yeah. I mean, overall, yes. I mean, two things to talk about there. One is just the funnel idea. I'm kind of done with it a little bit, honestly. Uh, just because I saw, yeah, we had the marketing funnel, awareness, consideration, decision. One, two, three. Boom, boom, boom. That's what you got to, align with. And then actually HubSpot, who I think originally came up with the funnel, created the flywheel in a way, which obviously flywheel, in a way to just show it's not simple. It's not one, two, three. People are ping ponging all over the place. And as more content types, as more channel types, as more marketing avenues come out and different ways of doing it, especially with SG and everything like that, it's such a myriad of touch points that need to occur that I think it's almost a disservice to your company to create this funnel idea, right? Because yes, and there's so many variables to it. Yes, somebody may never have heard of your company, so they're in that awareness phase, and they need to hear that. Great, but then guess what? They're already ready to go. They have such a high pain point that they're like, I hate my current MSP. I need something right now. Let's go. You have to have a call to action right there, ready for them to set up that call and get you guys on the phone in order to make that deal, where somebody may take months, right? Go through that whole long kind of journey and go all over the place to those 11 different touch points and different channels. That's a totally different journey. And to try to map that out is pretty hard. So I think, again, looking at it more from a channel perspective, more from what can we do from a resource standpoint and be there at different times, but also have those CTAs, call to actions, done in the right way where it's not too in your face, but it's there as needed because it depends on where you're at in the journey. I don't know. That's where we think about more as opposed to like, this is all in awareness. This is all in consideration, like that.
Yeah, I know. I did a big study on our 2023 marketing at the end of the year,
Mm,
and just to see like what's working, what's not working. And one of the things I did was I tried to really figure out what the journey statistics were and what the journey path was. And I think only like 30% of our journeys sort of mapped that traditional like sort of funnel progression
mhm,
that's direct and predictable. And actually, that part of the demographic was predictable,
mhm,
but there was a lot of people clearly, the first time that we knew about them and the first time they knew about us, as evidenced by either or both of our data on them or their perceived knowledge of us when we talked to them for the first time. Like they're going from like seeing us on a Reddit post to going to our website to booking a demo to signing up as a partner in like 3 hours, right?
wow.
And there's like no stages in the middle there,
Right.
right? It was just like click, 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 and I'm ready
Yes.
to go. And it's amazing when that happens, right?
Right.
But like when I tried to analyze that to figure out, well, how do I make them all like that? The reality is it's all a little bit random.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff happening in their journey, in their worlds, the pressures that are put on them. Cyber in particular is a difficult thing because it's this thing that's really boring, and most people see it as like a waste of money and boring, until there's a problem, and then it's the most important thing in the world, and
Mhm,
everything's on fire, and then the fire's out like 2 days later, right? So
right.
that's the nature of cyber. So because of that, the buyer journey is like really weird,
Mhm,
right? People are super motivated, then they're not, then they're super motivated, then they're not, and they don't move in a predictable fashion forward.
yep.
Um, so anyway, that's what I experienced. So I'm happy to see that like it wasn't just my research that was like all broken.
Yeah.
Um, so we got a little time left here.
Mhm,
Um, I do want to talk about Dakota, but before we do that, Do you think you have the ability to relate like a couple wins and a couple fails, or one MSP that like really won and what they were doing and what the outcome was, and one that like super bad fail? I don't know like which one you want to do first, but
We'll lead in with the win first, I guess. Um, no, I mean, and I do want to because we didn't touch on this, but I'll use it as part of the win. I think is the big kind of thing I want to get across. The big message here is this enhanced content idea, and what that really is if you want to develop out your marketing, the one thing to do is take a look at what you're putting together and align it almost like you were sitting across the table from someone. You're doing an assessment and you want to talk to them and show them the reporting about that. For example, you're sitting across from them or on a Zoom call and you're trying to provide value, right? Think of your content like that. Think of how they can best take it in. And specifically we're talking about things like using imagery in your content, using video, as we talked about. Subject matter experts, that's like the big thing we're doing right now, is talking to subject matter experts within our clients and saying, let's pull quotes out, let's pull video content out, because all of that, it's all in your guys' heads. It's unique, amazing, information. And the knowledge gap between what you have and what the prospective clients you're talking to understand is so big, you need to close that up. And a block of text from GPT is not going to do that. And it's what Google is going to say, that's bad. We don't want that. We want this unique, valuable, high engaging content. And so doing infographics and diagrams and videos and quotes and pulling in SME information is the way to go. So I'll get off my soapbox now about that. So big wins. We started working with an MSP client and really just instituted all of that enhanced content side of things. And actually within a 3-month time period, doubled their traffic and brought in new leads. And they've closed leads from that, closed new deals from that. And it was just, we look at the analytics and everything all the time, and to have that showcasing of, yes, this works, is always a wonderful thing as a marketer, because as you said, there's a lot of testing and randomness to the marketing game, and sometimes it doesn't work. So that would be kind of a win. On the learning failure side of things, we were talking about this earlier, and I think, and this was a big kind of aha for me, was the lead magnet pieces. So as a marketer for 17 years, and I started out actually in an accounting firm that owned an MSP, and that was my first kind of foray into things. I have also marketed for, diverse companies, even out to a cycling apparel company out of Switzerland. And I was the head of marketing for their US sales. And when you're B2C and when you're doing certain things, lead magnets work well, right? You can develop a lead magnet. It's what people want. They're salivating for things. You can get that desire going. What we've really learned over the years in IT is when you're talking, especially as an MSP, to prospective clients, a financial company, an accounting company, a healthcare, whatever it may be, that knowledge gap plays into the desire element. And so they don't care as much about like that 20-page PDF about X. They're not going to spend their time to go fill in the form and get it. And so we kind of, through trials and tribulations, just learned that lesson well, and have shifted strategies accordingly to say, okay, we need to provide the content and provide the marketing in diverse ways to close the knowledge gap, to handle, their pain points and provide solutions and all of that good stuff. But that immediate need that so many people, want that new red shoe or whatever it may be, this is a totally different type of marketing. And so we, back to the kind of learning side of that, we did do that with some MSPs, that strategy early on, and just learned like kind of wasting time, wasting money there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last banner ad I clicked on to download an ebook, right? I think it's been a bunch of years actually. But I do like reading briefs. I do like reading briefs, but I'm not You got to date me first. So yeah, I think yeah, there's always new things that I'm as a business owner like having to research, having to learn about,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate all that educational content. I need to find my way to a business solution, right?
Mhm.
So I can move on. Um, well, Mark, before we let the hour slip by here, let's
Mhm.
talk about Dakota. So you told me you've been doing marketing for 20 years, and you told me a little hint about almost 20 years. You told me a little hint of like you got your start in marketing. What came before marketing?
Yeah, so I did marketing and, went to school for marketing and all of that,
Okay,
and then in 2001, it was not obviously digital marketing as it is today, and, marketing there was a lot of sales jobs that they said were marketing and, just couldn't find a job and went into one of those wonderful pyramid schemes and sold some business phone services, and that was actually good from a sales perspective and understanding that. And then got into financial software training of all things. So that was for a while and traveled around, and then was like, I am getting back into marketing. That's
found
my
your way
love.
back home, huh?
Yep, yep, my love, and I need to do so. So.
So then you landed in Dakota at some point,
Mhm.
um, which was what was the dream? What is the dream? What does Dakota do?
Yeah. What is the dream? Um, it started as a strategy only company just because I was an enterprise consultant and saw them focusing on strategy and saw that small and medium businesses didn't really do that. A lot of businesses, unfortunately, do that throw against the wall and see what sticks method of marketing. And so I was like, we're going to go strategy. We're going to help companies with strategy. Worked great, but they were like, I have this strategy now. And to your point of resources, they didn't know what to do with it, like how to actually execute on it and implement it. So we added that in. And so really now, the dream, the mission is I love tech. I see tech as such a driver, and it's so obviously these days with our landscape of society, it's in every business, it drives every business. And so if we can be that part and help out MSPs and help out other tech purveyors and software vendors and everything to showcase what they're doing to the bigger world, I think that makes a huge impact. And so we do that through working with companies on strategy up front. That has never gone away. That's an important part of what we do. And then execution wise, really looking now at the buyer journey. We more recently made this shift back into full buyer journey, meaning inbound, outbound, looking at all these elements and saying, we need multi-channel. You have to have all these elements kind of going at the same time. We fully understand that you're focused on tech, you're focused on your clients, and don't have the ability to really do what is needed in the marketing realm. And so let us take that on and really, take it off your shoulders, like you do from a tech perspective for your clients. Same idea. We take it off your shoulders and help you, grow your business overall.
So yeah, I'm just getting excited about marketing just hearing your story.
That's good. That's good.
I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. Yeah, so all of you viewers are going to be hearing about my dreams over the next few months because we're always working on new stuff. Mark, leave us with some takeaways here. I think we talked a little bit about things are changing. I mean, things are always changing, right? But
Yep.
we had the era of one way marketing, right? And then we had this information economy we've been in for the last 15 years or so.
Mhm.
Um, and medias have changed, right? And algorithms have changed, but basically, smart marketers have been driving business by participating in the way people use the internet, right? And that's changing right now.
Mhm.
Search generative experience is a whole new channel, right? And it might be the primary channel soon. So, um, give us a takeaway.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. It's one of those things. Don't ostrich it and put your head in the sand. it's such a huge opportunity when you think about it, because there's this huge market of people searching. AI is here. We're not going to, stop that train. There is minimal competition, and every tech company we talk to is all about, well, how do I differentiate? There's so many companies that I'm up against, competing against. This is a great way. This is a great way to put resources and budget and everything behind it, because it's actually even cool because it's less technical in nature than it was before from a content and SEO perspective. It's literally just build awesome content that that a reader would enjoy. Is kind of like where it's going. So think about the topics to do that, the types of content and the channels to do that. And be that, I don't know if everyone knows, like Seth Godin, be the purple cow of IT, which is, you're driving down the road, everyone's seen a cow hopefully before, and you don't turn. If there's one purple cow, guess what you're going to do? You're going to stop, take pictures, everything like that. Be that purple cow of IT, and differentiate yourselves with this amazing content that everyone, all this C-suite of those businesses you're going after stops and looks at.
Yeah, that's it's such a hopeful message, really, because it's been so distressing um, uh, seeing search dominated by poor content for the
Yeah.
last 10 years.
Yep.
So the idea that the best way to get exposure these days is simply to not use tricks and cheats, right? To just
Yep.
create good content.
Yep.
I think that's going to be better for everyone. So
Yeah. It really is. And if you're a data person, to leave you with this, they actually looked at it and they said, okay, what's the outcome of this shift to SGE? And they showed that sites with poor content lost 92% of their traffic because of this. Sites with really good content, the enhanced kind we're talking about, gained 219% in traffic. So it's literally just which way are you going here? It's a fork in the road.
Well, thanks so much for joining. And
Absolutely.
like always, I forgot to pull up next week's schedule, but we will be returning next Friday. We will have, this is a fun one. So we're actually going to have one of our most successful partners, Alberto Ramos Izquierdo from Risk in Puerto Rico is going to come talk to us about how SpaceX's Starlink is disrupting BCDR planning. They're on an island down there, and believe it or not, like the idea that everyone can have a dish on their roof that connects them to the outside world is literally upending IT. So until then, subscribe, check us out on YouTube. Talk to you guys all next time. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.